Good evening, everyone. What I have here to show you is the week 6 budgeting and training Microsoft Excel video. What we're going to do today is we're going to put together all the different topics that we learned along the way, and we will exhibit how they can be applied in a real world manner. So I will say that all of these numbers are fictitious. So take it with a grain of salt. But all of the formulas we will use, all of the functions we will use, everything are real numbers. Let's begin. So if you look in the bottom right hand corner of this spreadsheet, what you see is a task list. So I'm going to walk through each one of these individual task lists so that we can, again, learn, grow all together. So first up, what I'm going to do is remove the grid lines from this budget. So first, I'm going to go to my ribbon, page layout. To the far right, you see grid lines and headings. You see view and you see print. If you click print, it will print. If you unclick the checkbox for view, they're gone. So I usually like my spreadsheets with a white background. It just helps me see a little better. It's up to you. It's your spreadsheet. But for this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the grid lines, and it's just as simple as checking the box and unchecking it as you see it toggle off. So I'm gonna mark this task off as done. Nope, that's not it. Next up, we're going to format this to one page. So if you look at the spreadsheet, you see these dotted lines right in between the column of G and H, and over here next column M and N. So this is a quick tip to how to bring it all together for you. So here I am going to I'm still in the page layout tab. I'm going to go to page setup, and this is going to bring up. Then I'm going to fit to one page long, one page wide. So one page wide, one page tall. Hit OK. And now all those dotted lines that were in the columns, you don't see anymore because everything is fit to one page. So going down the list, I'm gonna mark that as completed. One thing that's not on the list I wanna kind of call out that's gonna be fun to do and helpful is one, I'm going to click on the margins tab, still in the page layout, and I'm gonna swap them to narrow. So what that does is it widens the margin on your pages, so there's not as much white space or null space that isn't being used at your in your spreadsheet and at your disposal. So another thing, you see orientation. This is going to be before your portrait and your landscape. By default, all spreadsheets are set to portrait, which is basically your normal letter size sheet of paper. I'm gonna flop it to landscape, and what it does is it flips it on its side and make the paper wide instead of long. So that's not on my task list, but that's something I want to do. Also, I have my data creation logo just hanging around in the spreadsheet, but what I want to do again is I want to change the I want to change it so that it's permanently there and we don't see it in the spreadsheet. So under the page layout, I'm going to click header, and you're going to see this default header and then footer. I'm going to custom footer, and then in the right section, I'm going to add a picture. It's thinking. Here we are. I'm going to go to my data creation folder. Um, I'm gonna find my image. Don't mind my messy folder structure. I swear it is it is a lot less daunting in person. And I'm gonna hit OK, and here we go. And now I can click that image and hit delete, and it's gone. But I know that my image is in the top of my paper. So another thing I have is my data creation consulting group that I have here. So I have it embedded, not embedded, I have it in a cell right now. I want to leave it here. You can also edit that, play with that, put it in your header, but I want to leave it here. So I added the logo to my page header. Now I want to add one more thing to the header footer. I want to add page numbers. So now I want the page number in the footer. So let me go custom footer. I accidentally put the picture in the heading, in the footer. But what I want to do is put that in the header. So I'm going to delete it. Now I'm in the center of the page. I'm going to put 1 of 1. So now when it prints, it will say page 1 of 1. Now in the left-hand side of the page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type budget date. Bear with all of my horrible typing. And then I'm going to add the date and then the time. So now when this prints, it will have the day that I created this, the day that I printed it, and you can see it down here in the bottom left-hand corner here. Now I want to go to the header, custom header. Am I right? I want to put my pictures. Click that button again, and where is my logo? Smaller. There we go, and then hit OK. And now, as you can see from the little preview, you see the logo in the top right, and then in the bottom, you see the printed date of the budget date, and then also your page 1 of 1. Now hit OK. Now we're going to get to some of the formula. I'm going to put my X here. Now, I have totals here in my budgeted amount. So this is just a recommendation. What you can do is I normally create a budget and an actual in my normal monthly budget, just so I know, like, because I do this in on the go forward basis, so anticipatory. So here I am going to put equal sum, open parentheses. Now I'm going to drag down, hit enter again. That didn't work. Oh, I know what it did. Let me do edit undo. I wasn't in the right cell. So let me go down. I'm going to do it again. Equals sum. Hit enter. And now I have a dynamic field. Now, Warren Buffett says have many multiple streams of income. I put 6 here, but if you only have 5, you can delete one by just putting 0 in that cell. And the totals will update accordingly. I'm just going to undo just so that it continues. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to right click on that sum I just did. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it in the columns adjacent to it. Now, you see the dash $sign? That's because there's no values in this, in those fields. So now I totaled my revenue. Now let's total our expenses. Equal sum. Now, I know some people are watching this screaming at the screen. There's an easier way. Yes, there is. But I want to walk you through the long way and let you get comfortable with that before we start looking at more of the complexities. I'll copied it. I'm gonna paste my, oh, hold on 1 second. Copy my values. I'm gonna paste it here, and I'm going to paste it here. Why am I getting these? Oh, it pasted the special values and not the formula. So I'm gonna go and do that again, equals sum. I'm just highlighting and I'm hitting Control R, and Control R means copyright. And as you can see, the dashes are there because there are no values in the column. Now I'm going to jump down to this blue column, well, this blue data set rows where it has total revenue and total expenses. And what I'm going to do is I am going to add an equal sign, and I'm going to link in this spreadsheet to the values I want to reference. So I want to reference total revenue, enter, and I want to enter total costs. Now, the net spending amount, what that basically is your revenue minus your costs. You always want this to be positive, right? Because if you're negative, that means you are spending more money than you're bringing in, which can be problematic. Now, again, all of this is for intent and purpose. So this is all illustrative. So here I'm going to do the same formula, equal my revenue minus my expenses, and I net $6,019.75. So I'm just gonna copy this over with Control R. Those fields are null, so you wouldn't expect to see any dollar values in them. So we're just gonna move right along. Now, variance. So the variance is very much what you make of it, and how you would interpret it. It is your budgeted minus your actual. So again, equal this minus that. And that's still positive. Those are all positive numbers because what we're doing essentially is taking your budget amount minus 0, and that's the identity property. So that will always equal your budget until you put an actual in there. So what I did was copy the functions, and I'm right click, paste special formulas. So the same formulas hold true throughout where I am pasting it. Paste special formulas again. Now, I did something a little different here, where in this cell I created a some conditional formatting. So actually it should be your actual minus your budgeted. And wherever it is a negative number means your actual is less than your budgeted, the cell turns red. And I'll show you how to do that. Now I am going to, I'm just gonna highlight it and then paste my special formulas. Now, if you notice, all of these cells are red because what's happening is they're all negative numbers. So your actual is less than your budgeted because it's 0. So here, if I put $2,000 here, it turns into 0 because my budget and my actual is the same. So the variance is 0. Therefore, it's no fill. So all of this will work according to your basically according to the way your spreadsheet will work. Now, this cell isn't highlighted, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to format paint this cell. And what that does is it takes all of the formatting, all of the behind the scenes stuff, and applies it to the cell that you want to paint. So I'm just going to put $20,000 here, just to make it a little easier. And as you can see, my sum cell turns positive because my total budgeted amount is less than my total actual. So that means you are in the green. That means you budgeted for less than what you actually received. And that will look like extra money in your budget. I use the term extra loosely. So let's delete these values just to leave them blank. Now, and that's the variance column summed up in its entirety. So you see the pound. That's because your cell isn't long enough. So I just double clicked and it expanded it. Now I want to do something cool where I'm doing percent of revenue. So this will be of your budgeted amount. So equal this divided by your total amount. Now, what you would have to do is hit F4 to freeze or lock or make an absolute reference of the cell and copy that. Let me copy that one down. Again, paste formulas. So if you notice, this cell is 1 because you're dividing by itself. So that will always be 1. Now this is where it really gets interesting, because what you start to see is the percent of your revenue that this particular cost item makes up. So I'm just copying it, paste special formulas, it's doing the same thing, and it's all in and now it's all in decimal form. Now I want to change this to percentage. So I'm in my home ribbon. I'm going to click percent. Then I'm going to increase my decimal place 1 place. And then you get to see that your housing, which is your second line item, is 14.3% of your budget. So that can be a lot, that can be a little, it depends on your comfort zone. That percentage is usually higher because whether you rent or you buy, it can be very expensive. So now so we built the essential budget. Now your actuals will, you would have to key these in as they come in. So you can true up and make sure what you, see what you expected is what you received. So here we are. I'm moving along right down this list. Now I want to do one thing I forgot, and that's freeze panes. So if you see as I scroll through the spreadsheet, the column headings disappear. So I don't know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it. So here I'm going to click at the cell immediately under and to the right of where you want to freeze. So I'm going to click View, Freeze Panes. And now what happens is everything is frozen, and where I always know whether I'm on my budgeted or actual amount, my variance amount, and my percent of revenue. Good to go? Great. So now this is something that we'll start to use that we used before. It's your data validations. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a look at my home, then I'm going to go to my data ribbon, then I'm going to go to data validations. What I want to do is create a list of all of the values that can be selected from a drop-down menu that pertain to revenue. And then I hit enter, and now I hit OK. And now if you look at the cell, I have a drop down amount. I have a drop down value that can be populated pertaining to revenue. So last step is we're going to do the same thing for costs. So I'll go slower this time. Now, again, I'm in my data ribbon. I'm going to click data validations. From this drop down, I'm gonna select list. Now it says source. So now I am going to highlight all the things that I'm looking for in my source. And now I have it. And then I hit enter. And now there are a few different options you have. You can ignore the blank values and then end cell dropdown. Of course, you want it in your end cell dropdown if you want a list. You can type it if you unclick that box, but we're going to leave it checked for now. So now, did it work? What happened? Let's go back and make sure it worked. Data validations, list, source. I'm doing revenue, so I'll go here. Am I okay? Oh, it did work. So you see this drop down to the right. You can see all of your expenses and all of your revenues in this drop down box. Now I want to update this to be your to be the total amount. And what I'll do now is I will create a VLOOKUP to bring in the value I am looking for. So I will choose, I'm gonna choose default values here. Actually, you know what? Let me put total expenses versus your total revenue. So what I'm gonna do now is equal VLOOKUP, open parentheses, the cell I am gonna, I typed it wrong, excuse me. The cell I want to look up, where I want to look at, will always be column 1, will always be the first column. And then it's selected C through G for me. So I'm going to, again, hit F4 to lock those values in so they don't move. Now, if I look at my data set, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top. This is just here to know what to put in this column. So I want budgeted, and that is in column 2. So I'll put 2, 0, and I'll close my parentheses. And that is 10,500. 100. So let me format that. Actually, I will copy. I'm gonna paste special formulas. So the same formula holds true. Now I'm gonna format them both as a $sign so that they represent a dollar value. And now what I have is my values based on the chosen selection. So you can change that from income source 3, whatever you might want to look at. But here, being that we're looking at totals, I want the same to hold true for my totals. Now, let's add one more step to it. So I'm highlighting my column with the item choice and then the amount. I'm gonna hit insert chart. Now I'm gonna click recommended charts because I know this will be one. A pie chart looks fine as well. It lets you know how much of your percentage, how much of your budget is revenue, how much is your how much is your revenue, how much is your expenses. But here I want the comparative chart, bar charts side by side. I double click and the recommended charts really help me out. And I'll put that right here just for all intents and purpose. I'll make this a little larger. I'll change the title. Now I'm just double clicking and I'm gonna make that, and bear with me. If you've been watching these videos, you know my typing is horrible. Just changing that to monthly budget, and it's all capitals. That's fine. Now, let's play with this a little bit. Now, remember we did the data validation, and we created this list of drop downs. If you change these values, what you get to do is start to look at costs versus your revenue comparatively, and these bar charts will change dynamically. But for me, I want to look at the total expenses and my revenue, and as we can see, we are in the go here by $6,000, meaning that your revenue is $6,000 higher than your budgeted expenses. Now, that $6,000 can be used at your discretion. I do not care and I do not judge, so use it freely. But this is how we can apply all of the things that we went through weekly to our Microsoft Excel lessons. Again, everyone, if you have any questions, you can find us at risk-inquiry@datagration.com, data-gration.com. And again, from my mouth to God's ears, I'll see you at the top.